Welcome to Tag Talk. This is episode 9, To Hell and Back. And this is Amateur Hour.
So yes, Adam, welcome back to the show. You've not been on for a wee while. I know you've been taking a wee sort of break for your own health purposes there, but it is good to be back on the show, mate. Been a while since we've had a chance to just kick back, relax, and just go and talk freely about a whole bunch of stuff. So yeah, the whole idea is we're going to sit and talk about the event that was on at the same time as Foam Fest was on. For anybody who couldn't get down to London for the Foam Fest 24 convention, Adam was kind enough to put on a event up at a brand new venue. So why don't you tell us all about that?
Yep. So obviously it was FanFest weekend. I'd done this 2 years before when it was in Bristol. I'd run something at the Foundry. Obviously because I couldn't get down to Bristol. This time London is quite a trek for me with my eyesight, so I wanted to do something fairly local. And Unit 26 in Hull is somewhere I'd been looking at for a while. So early 2023, we put some feelers out in the Hull area because we have quite a few players in the Hull area. And there was a indoor paintball site called Storm Paintball. And it was sand covered for a couple of bunkers and a car in the middle. And we put some feelers out, and it was kind of, yeah, we might be able to accommodate you. But I didn't really pursue it because obviously sand, paint, it's going to make our ammo horrible, wreck our blasters. So we didn't push it. And then Storm disappeared. And then a few months later, Unit 26 appeared. Now, they are run by, I think it's HQ Airsoft, who have a warehouse and shop on the other side of a river in Hull. And they also have an outdoor site up in Driffield, which we might be able to get access to, I'm hoping. So Unit 26 is an indoor airsoft site. It's got plywood, maize. So if you've been to the Foundry before, it's very similar to that. So it's very tight corridors, mixture of rooms, doorways, windows to shoot through, camo nets for cover, blocks and barrels. And we'd reached out to Unit 26 last summer, just after they opened, because they wanted to run Nerf parties and they were interested in seeing what the Nerf scene was like. So I wanted to run something last summer, and there was Boba Fest at pretty much the same time. People were away because obviously 2023 lockdown and pandemic was over, so a lot of people went away that year. So nothing happened last year. But obviously with FanFest being in London and it's just too far for me, too expensive, too difficult with my eyes, I knew I wanted something local. We've lost the Foundry. The Laser Mania site we've been using for Nerf Mania is iffy. Obviously, we have the issue with the floor. So Unit 26 seemed a perfect opportunity. Message them, and almost instantly got a response with, yep, let's have you in. So put it up as a public event, and we had fairly good interest. Not as good as I was expecting, especially from the Hull area. We were probably down 5 of the usuals from Hull that I was hoping to get. But we got 14 players, of which 13 paid, but we'll get to that later. And like I say, it is an old warehouse. One side of a warehouse is the gear up area and an area they're turning into a shop. It's parking outside that side. Then the other side is the main arena. So it's, like I say, it's a long 40 meter by 50 meter hallway kind of room, divided into 2 halves. A base respawn zone on each side, and in the middle, a kind of no man's land where they've got photography cases or blaster or gun storage cases stacked up with some netting on. And then what we did find, and we'll come to this in the games, is that those sides are not equal. One side is a lot tighter and a lot more routes. The other is more roomy. But then in addition to that main arena, they have a side area. You access it from basically the middle of the arena, and then one goes off down a kind of corridor with a room and then into another room. And then the other part, there's a staircase up, and then it goes into the main bit. Now, that area, when I booked it, was pitch black. But in the days before we went, they'd actually done it up. So it's now UV reactive. So there's UV lights, UV paint on the walls. I don't know if anyone else noticed, but my t-shirt lit up like a, like a light show. So that's one side area. And then above that, accessed from the staircase on one side. I don't know whether the other staircase was. I came down it, I never went up it. There is another maze, similar size to a UV room, which I never got up to, but I know some people did.
I did, yeah.
So I'm hoping to hear from you on that later on. But obviously that means we've got kind of 3 distinct play areas that we can use there going forward. The main room is very tight, very close quarters. It's fairly fast playing, not as actually fast playing as I was expecting. I was expecting to be able to get from one spawn to the other in about 10-15 seconds. What I was finding was I was getting to the middle in 10 seconds and then worrying about whether I could cross that middle ground without getting shot by somebody with a shield. Don't know who that was. And then once I was in the other half, it was generally quite easy to get down towards their spawn. So it was quite easy to spawn camp. But what I did find was a lot of players realised that and backed off. So, but it's the kind of CQB that I really enjoy. I really enjoy those really tight, get up close. It means if your blaster's only 120 FPS, it's fine. If anyone else is firing one joule, you're just as effective because your engagement range is 2 to 5 meters at most.
Yeah, you were definitely, most fights were inside the 10-meter range quite easily. Yeah. And 100, the difference between 100 and 150 is not noticeable in that environment. What was definitely noticeable was the impact of the shield, and the impact of grenades, which will no doubt come up as a big talking point there. Yeah. But Brendan and I, Boneheed and I, both had cameras on. I know Green Hornet as well.
Yes.
But I think what we'll try and do is I genuinely haven't had a chance to really look at any of the footage yet. I started looking at the HVZ rounds, the HVZ pinger and the cure round yesterday, when I was getting 5 minutes to myself. And yeah, I think we'll be able to. It's definitely an environment that going in heavy and with a big heavy loadout is definitely not going to do you any favors.
You can't get around some of those corridors with a heavy loadout.
No,
I found it difficult. Sorry, David. I was just going to say I definitely found it difficult just manoeuvring with a slab. And a slab is a long blaster, but there were corridors that I wouldn't have been able to. I would have had to kind of lift my blaster and turn because if I'd have just turned sideways, I would have been whacking the walls. So yeah, very tight.
Was definitely an environment that I would say pistols were definitely going to be your friend there, and as such, a first-time player who's just picked up a
Nightingale, a Venom, a Kronos.
Exactly, yeah, something along those lines. Yeah, because you were having Diana out for the first time. It was certainly something where if you were taking a two-handed blaster, you were probably going to find yourself at a bit of a disadvantage. Not so much so that you were like I would run the Saturn in as a if we were doing a rival only round, I would run the Saturn. I think a Nemesis on full auto would be a little bit of overkill. But I think that, single shot rival would still have a very good place there. I think the pistols were definitely something that I didn't feel. Sarah and I run Nightingales, and we did not feel in any way, shape, or form outclassed or outperformed, because you were not shooting at the maximum range. I think there was one corridor, I think, that you can do it, even though there's intervening terrain. I think there's one corridor that you can see, basically just there's a gap that you can see all the way along from one side to the next, the one side to the end, and even then it's a case of you're not shooting that far, So it was a great CQB environment that I thoroughly had a blast in doing. Brendan, sorry, you were going to say something there.
I just kind of echo what you were saying, to be honest. I think pistols really did work. We did have at least 2 or 3 players that were using stock rival. I saw a Kronos, I saw a takedown.
Dean's is not stock.
Oh, is it not? Okay, fair enough.
I may have accidentally added an extra round to it at some point in the past.
Either way, I don't think if it had a spring upgrade, it certainly wasn't sort of.
It's just extra round. He's got 6 rounds.
It was extra jewel. It was an extra jewel, but above the 1 jewel. But it was single fire pump action rival is more the point.
It's very similar though to the Foundry. We found pistol was king in the Foundry because it's at you're holding it close. You generally know where you're pointing it and where it's going to go. And with rival, it's going to go that 5-10 meters perfectly.
Yeah. I mean, this is one probably more for the game chat, but I did certainly find that rival would keep up with a Diana in such CQB. There is one incident that I'll touch on later on whereby the Diana really came into its own. But the range-wise pistols were absolutely king. Anything sort of long or two-handed, unless it was quite compact, like an SMG form or something like that.
DK2S.
Yes.
So what game selection did you go for this one, Adam?
Yep. So as I always do, I list various game types in advance, list the rules and what I want to try and play. I've got fruit flies kicking around. It's horrible. So we start with Pinger HVZ, like we always do in a new venue. So this is humans versus zombies, Busan style. So we're running 3-second stun, 3-second immunity. And the way we do it is everybody takes a kitchen timer. The timer's masked off, so you can't see if yours is live. And only a few of them have batteries in them. Those timers are set to like 1 minute, 1 minute 30. I try and make it so they always go off slightly staggered. So you'll hear one go off that side of the arena and you think, oh, maybe I should move, and then one goes off next to you. Now, Pinger HVZ is great at creating that kind of paranoia. And it used to be great because I used to know which ones were which, because I had a way of marking them that nobody had yet figured out. But at some point in the last year, I've remarked them, and I can't even remember what they're marked as now. So I'm as paranoid as anyone else in that game now. So we ran 1 game of that. We normally run 2 or 3, but 1 seemed okay. I hid in the side room towards the UV, and I've got a note that Dean was the last human survivor, which is quite common for Dean. He always seems to survive well, and he runs a Kronos very effectively. So that was game 1. Then we tried Cure, which was a new game type, basically reverse pingers. So rather than everyone being a human and only a few people are being zombies, this was everybody is potentially a zombie, and only a few are humans. And if your timer goes off, you're a human, and you've got to find the cure, these 10 vials around the arena. So the first game we ran with just 2 humans, and it was over in about 15 seconds. Obviously, once those people's timers went off, they just flung them and ran. Generally straight into the arms of a waiting zombie. Game 2, we ran with 4 humans. It was better. I think they recovered 2 out of 10 vials. I'd love to have recovered 10 because I've only come home with 8. So somewhere in that arena, there's 2 vials still. As game type, it's got some potential. I just don't know whether that is the right arena for it. I actually think that might be better somewhere like Laser Mania, where you've got a bit more space to move and not get caught in a dead end, or not so much a dead end, but walk into somebody around a corner who's hiding. Game 3 and game 4, because at this point, so we did team deathmatch, and for team deathmatch we use my counter boxes. So these are count up boxes with a big button you press. Obviously counts up when you die. So we ran 1 game, and I have a note that blue scored 32 deaths and red scored 25. But it was very obvious by the end of that round that the arena is not equal. So what we did was, rather than just run 1 game, we did an end swap. And just to prove they wasn't equal, the score totally flipped. We ended with red on 81 and blue on 66. So blue absolutely stormed that second game. Then fourth game type was Flux. And we took a similar idea to Dishfeth. So we used dice. But what I did was I got some large, kind of 15, 20 centimeter foam dice. And I got 3 of each color, 3 red, 3 blue. Put them in your side of the arena. And it was, you score, blues were scoring evens, red was scoring odds. And you scored 1 point if it was your own color dice, 2 points if it was the other team's dice. So the plan was that you were trying to go push into the other team's half to flip their coin, their dice to your number. And this proves why this was a little bit difficult, because obviously first time we've run it with these rules, and even I'm getting confused. So first game, I've got a note that blue scored 6 and red scored 3, which worked out as, let me get this right. Blue scored 2 of her own and 1 of the red dice, and red scored 2 of her own. No, 1 of her own and 1 of, I can't remember. I think 1 and 1.
It was 6 and 3. It was 6 and 3. It'd be 3 would have been 1 of the opponent's team and 1 of theirs, and 6 would have been 2 of the opponent's team and 2 of theirs.
Can't remember. Possibly. I should have made a note. So we then flip side again, and this time blue scored 4 and red scored 10. So it was an overall draw. That doesn't sound right. But it was an overall draw. Yeah.
I think it was a draw.
But like I say, as a game type, it's got some legs. I think we need to be a little bit clearer about where they are for a start, because I couldn't find one of them when I went back to look who'd scored them, and make it clearer which way you've got to flip them. Because even I was obviously struggling. Then we did domination. This is where I get to boast that I have this brand new spanking, all singing, all dancing domination box. So it's an Arduino powered Wi-Fi box, and it has ancillary speakers that go into your bases. And it announces who's trying to control the central point. So we put it in the no man's land, and we said no grenades in the no man's land. which I think lasted about 10 seconds before Boneheed threw one at me and I threw one at him. So yeah.
I technically wasn't in no man's land. I was
yes,
on our
I
side
know,
of the
I know. But obviously, most people actually stuck to it and didn't try and throw grenades. But there was an issue that in people. So the box has this feature where you have to take. I don't want to say take control. You have to remove control from the team who has it and then take control. So you have to hold it down 4 seconds, which removes control, let go, hold it down 4 seconds again to take control. But what was happening was people were doing that, taking control, and then thinking they had to do it again to keep control. So it was actually, they were losing their own control several times, which again, first time we've used them, we'll get better with it. I was on red team. We absolutely stormed into the center at the start, took control, and I thought we were going to win it with a mile. And it actually turned out that it came down to 25 seconds over I think, 6 or 11-minute game, which was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. And then we finished with a single shot round. So we quite often do this in my games where you can only take a blaster that fires a single shot. You can take a mag-fed blaster, but you're expected to drop the mag, load it, put it back in. By this point, some people had to get off. So we ran it as 3x3. And I went in with a blaster that I was meant to give to Green Hornet for Little Hornet. So I had an Alpha Strike Stinger. And I don't know what is up with that blaster, but it was awesome. So I
Alpha Strike, awesome.
Yes, this is what shocked me. I'm not sure Green Hornet should have it. I think at this point I was on blue team. We won by 14-7, and I probably got 7 of those kills because this blaster was amazing. So we didn't quite get through as many games as I wanted. I did take ducks for duck hunt. I did take the rugby tags for kill confirmed. But one thing I did find was, obviously, it's the first time some of us have seen each other for a while. I haven't seen DPA since Hull Front Page. I don't think I've seen the Hull guys for a long while. I'd know they've met Paul and his son before. I hadn't seen Joker for a while. So there was quite a lot of chatter between rounds. It was also ridiculously warm. First good day in a long while, and as the foundry had it, it's a tin-roofed warehouse, so it bakes in the sun. And I don't know about anyone else, but I was drinking ridiculous amounts between rounds just to try and stay hydrated. So we didn't get through as many as I wanted, but I really enjoyed the games we played. My favourite was Team Deathmatch, because as I always find with that game, you go out there, you get shot, go press button, you see it gone up quite a bit since the last time you pressed it. It's like, oh God. You go out, you get shot again before shooting anyone. It's like, oh, this is not good. Press it again, it's gone up quite a lot. And then you go out and you get 3 or 4 or 5 tags in a row, and you're just like, yes, I've pulled it back. And then at the end of the round, you see that it's 32-25, and it's like, oh, well, we didn't do as well as I thought we were. So I love Team Deathmatch for that reason. Flux, Flux, I think that idea has some, like I say, some legs. I think we should have probably gone with just standard flip tiles on first run in that venue. But
I don't think it was helped by the fact that we weren't that familiar with the venue. It is also quite maze-like. There's quite a lot of, particularly in the Joker spawn side, which I'm sure we'll cover. That is really like I think David said. There's lots of zigzaggy corridors, and there's one sort of side where it's quite a long side.
I hadn't appreciated from the pictures before we went, but the sides were so different.
Yeah.
I expected them to be slightly different, but fairly equal. But no, there was a definite distinct advantage on one side where it was less mazy, slightly wider, and you could get to that center a lot quicker.
Yeah. I mean, on the Venom side, you'd got two pretty much long corridors that were the entire length of that sort of side, wasn't it? So that kind of made it a little bit, you could just run down that side and be straight to no man's land.
I think if you, on both the Joker and the whatever the other side was labeled, Venom, that was it. Both on the Joker side and the Venom side, like if you walk in to it, because I'll pop a wee section just now. If you walk in from the safe zone into the area, on your left-hand side, you've got the Joker spawn, and you've got the right-hand side, you've got what we label the Venom spawn. I don't think that the Joker side has a significant advantage. I think it still has a bit of an advantage in terms of the mazy-like component in the center. But if you walk in, you turn left or you turn right, and the first corridor will get you right down to the back wall and along, and there's another one coming the other side. So the bits inside of that are a bit more maze-like on the Joker side than Venom. But you can still, because I know I utilised that quite a few times by intentionally going all the way to one side, all the way along the wall, just because the case of, right, I know where this goes, I'm going to stick to this path. But there was quite a few times when I was on the Joker side where I even walked into the spawn point for the other team. I didn't spawn camp, I just walked through, shoot everybody that was there, and then disappear again, because it's a case of, well, I'm not going to back off, I'm just going to shoot you, and that's fine. But if we go back a bit, all the way around to the first game and start sort of discussing them in sequence here, Sarah and I were heading down with Jay, Joker, for the event, and we left in plenty of time and then hit traffic and speed restrictions, and therefore we didn't actually get there for the zombie rounds, which would normally be my component for when I would sit out and take photographs. So on one hand, I sort of started the event a bit flustered and a bit narked with traffic. But Brendan and Adam, what about the actual zombie rounds? How did you feel that the maze-like component actually worked for HVZ? Because it is something where, you've got the paranoia aspect, it's very fast-paced, you've already got a CQB environment that you're not familiar with, and zombies can very easily just reach out and go, hello, you're now on our team,
Yeah.
How did you feel that one worked?
I definitely found that the maze-like area was beneficial. I'm usually in HVZ, I'm not the quickest guy around. I'm usually shouting brains after a few seconds. But I managed to avoid quite a lot of it this time. One thing I did note, and you'll catch this in my footage, I was a bit more panicked running around because I didn't know where I was going. And at one point, I sort of jinked into a side corridor. And I was a little bit above tactical jog, and I went straight into Paul, nearly knocked him flying. And that was kind of the panic that was coming in. But I eventually did get caught in no man's land just through a pincer maneuver for a couple of zombies.
I got caught in no man's land as well.
Yeah, I think when you were in the absolutely, yeah. I think when you were in the maze areas, there was enough sort of twists and turns that you could either lose someone or just keep ahead of them enough to kind of avoid being tagged. It did make it a little bit more difficult to shoot the zombies, I found, because again, you've got those angles to consider. And I ended up getting most of my sort of stuns in the no man's land area or the wider areas, particularly down the Venom side, which, as I said, it's the mazy section of Venom is wider than the mazy section of Joker. And yeah, I think it made it a lot more tense, but also easier to kind of stay alive, if you like.
There was a point where I think 4 of us went into one room and we were covering like every exit at one point.
Yeah.
I love zombies. I love ping a HVZ. I love those kind of mazes. I like to say, I like that thing of, oh, I can hear somebody over there. going, our brains. So it's like, okay, which way do I? Okay, that way, and then you go that kind of, and say, oh, got somebody that way. Oh no, somebody that way. Oh, go through the centre. So yeah, I love that kind of game. So I'm always going to be happy about it. And one reason we do it first in a new venue is because no one knows the way out. So it means everyone's on that equal footing of, I don't know where to go. I've yet to explore this side. And one of the things I like about it is it tries to get you to move to learn the venue. And I didn't make it into the other half in Zombies. I stuck in one half, going around those rooms, going into the no man's land, going into the side bit, and I did not make it all the way to the other side. So it was only in, I think, Team Deathmatch when I made it all the way across.
It's certainly, from watching the footage there, it's one thing that did sort of string out was you done a 3-second stun and a
Yes.
3-second immunity.
Normally I do
Normally
5.
it's 5. Yeah. Now, what was the thought process behind that?
Make people scared.
Yeah, I figured there was something like that, but I was wondering if there was something a little bit more than that. Perhaps the fact is that
it's one of those things I always like to mix it up with Zombies, because otherwise you know what you're going to get. You know that so and so is going to move in a certain way. So 3-second stun, 3-second immunity, it's a little bit more panicky. I think next time we're going, I've said we're going to run escalation, but with 5-second increments, which for those who've never experienced escalation, it's pinger extra easy, but when you're shot as a zombie, your stun timer increases. So you start at 5 seconds stun, 5-second immunity. Next time it'll be 10 seconds stun, 10-second immunity. So you're stun locked for a lot longer, but then you've got a lot longer to hunt people down, and they're just going to shoot you and run away. So we ran it at hold the front page, and we did a 2-second stun, 2-second immunity. And some of us clocked up to, I think, 20 seconds on that. So we'd been hit 10 times. So imagine that at a 5-second increment, you're going to be over a minute of immunity. That's enough time to hunt anyone down.
Yeah, except maybe Ross.
Or Dean, because Dean seems to just, or Han, because Han becomes a ninja. Yeah. So one thing we've not touched on is, so we've mentioned the domination box and how we use it for domination. We used it for every game. So we had it in the center of the arena with speakers in each spawn. And one of the features it's got is a game start countdown. And then because of a bug in the software, you can't set a 10-minute game. So we ran 11-minute games, which I don't know about anyone else, but I found really good. Because we quite often run 10-minute games, and you kind of know your ammo usage, how many rounds you can fire without getting close. I always find the extra minute throws all your kind of, okay, I know I've got this many mags for this many shots, and I can do this. That extra minute just throws all that out of the whack. So it has a minute countdown, and in each spawn, simultaneously, it goes beep, 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 beep. And then it goes game start, and then it announces at 10, 5, 1, 30, and 10 seconds, I think, of how long you've got remaining, which also then means you know when you're getting close. Now, it's something I've been trying to do myself in an Android app, but to have it work simultaneously in both bases was perfect for me. And it meant I didn't have to worry about blowing a whistle to get everyone to start. And if you came into the arena, you knew when it was already counting down. So if you were coming in late, you had to get to that base to get ready. So I found that really useful as a game organizer, as something to as a prop to have to just organise my games better. Doesn't make up for the other issues with that box, but we'll get to that later.
Well, nothing's perfect. Nothing is perfect there. So, how do we feel the team deathmatch worked quite well then?
I struggled. I think I was trying to run the BK2S and I was having mag issues. And like I say, I know I went out and got hit 3 or 4 times in a row without shooting anyone. It was, I think I'd come up against you, I'd come up against come up against David, come up against Bonehead. I think Dean had got me or something like that. And it was just hit after hit after hit. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not getting anything. I'm really struggling here. And then I just had this perfect, went down one side, picked somebody off, picked somebody off, picked somebody off, retreated a bit, picked somebody off. It's like I then got 6 kills in a row before I got tagged. And it's like, yes, makes up for all those deaths. And it's one thing I really love is team deathmatch, because you don't know what the other team's suffering. All you've got is, I've been hit time and time again. I've gone back, and that number is creeping up every time I've gone back, and I've not hit anyone. And I always worry that, oh, we are being absolutely destroyed. So it was only 7 kills in it at the first round. But the way I was feeling was, I'd been hit 4 times. I have not hit anyone. I am the weakest point in this team at this precise moment in time. And then obviously you get people like Joker, who almost always has some kind of gear issue. And there was one point I just saw them come in, and they were looking at their blaster and just downhearted. And I'm like, you're having the same struggles I am. You've been hit multiple times. You've not hit anyone. Oh, we are losing badly. So yeah, I love Team Deathmatch for that very reason of I have no idea how well it's going, how bad it's going until we see that score.
I think this was around I was running the Shield.
Yes, you were.
Yes. So I had gone in with a supply of Fulcrum airsoft grenades, and I had on the inside of my shield, I had secured the clips or the holster for the retention thing for them. Now I had intentionally just done the pin and spoon design for them, and this is where I was trying to basically have the shield, have the pistol, and then it was a case of right, grab it, pull it, teeth out, throw. Okay. I think the shield was as much of a hindrance to movement as it actually was a challenge for other people to overcome.
It was scary facing it.
Yeah.
And
yes.
I've faced shields before, and I love facing off against shields. I've tried to be a shield user. I am so bad at reloading, but I just let somebody else. But almost every time I turned a corner into the center area, you were there with that shield. And it's like I didn't have anything on me to deal with shields other than grenades. And it's like I have had a few seconds to back off before you hit me. Or I turned a corner and you were already ready to fire and hit me. So it was terrifying to fight against. But I totally get where you're coming from, because it's a big, heavy shield, because it's polycarbonate. And it is quite large, because I think it's 60 centimeters. Yeah, so it's about 2 foot nearly. And some of those corridors are probably as wide as it. So
it was definitely, it picked up a lot more scrapes along the edges than it started with. Okay. And I had a lot of fun using it, but it definitely impaired my capacity to move at speed.
Yeah.
Because I am quite a chunky individual, you know, if I hit a piece of scenery, I can't guarantee that it's not moving. you know. So I was trying
Especially
to be
those
quite,
boxes in the centre.
especially
They
the
were
boxes in the
they were
centre,
free
yeah.
floating. We found out.
Yes, you could. Yep, they're moving, you know. So it was very much a case of trying to. I mean, I recognised I could have barreled through at speed and just bounced off everything, okay. But if there was somebody behind it, I didn't want to hurt them. I didn't want to knock over stuff. I didn't want to break anything, okay. So I found myself being quite slow and methodical, almost like a shield-bearing mob in a video game, okay. And that was great for people to play against because you could see where somebody would draw my fire and somebody would catch me from behind, and I was like, yes, fantastic, that's what you want, teamwork, you know. But it also meant that people, unless maybe you went full auto like say Boneheed, okay, it was very much a case of, or it wasn't full auto because you were using the protean, which is basically the equivalent to full auto just with many finger presses.
Yeah,
That trigger
might as well-
response, yes.
Yeah,
it might as
fair
well be
enough.
full
It
auto.
might as well
Yeah.
be full auto, okay. But it was great for just being able to move around the arena, block stuff off. I didn't feel as if I was trying to block off an avenue of fire, I didn't feel as if I was just holding a shield against this massive big corridor, because it was a case of, right, that's definitely going to hold something up there, okay. And I could still sort of focus on other bits and pieces there. But I know that from my takeaway from using it during the event was I needed to get a proper holster for my Nightingale. So I did then, after the event, organise with Fancy Impact to get
Holsters.
3
Yeah.
Maglock
Maglock, yeah.
holsters, 2 for myself and 1 for Sarah. Okay, so I definitely can see myself. That's going to be incorporated into it, and I'll sort of work the idea of just being able to put it back in and pull the thing out. The grenades, I think, worked fantastically. Spoon recovery was an interesting one.
Which is what Boneheed found at Dishforth the
Yeah,
first time we used them.
And that's why I've now gone to the twist tops, because they're just, you know, off your belt and twist and away. You're not then worrying about where's my ring gone, where's my spoon gone, where's my pin gone, and stuff. So,
I didn't mind because Spectre done all the printing for me, and he sent me a possibly
metric shit ton of parts.
Yes, that'd be yes, that'd be a fair way to put it. He sent me a lot of spares, and I did go and get an entire pack of cotter pins, and a pack of, I think it was 30mm rings to go with them. So I didn't mind losing them because I basically have about 3 times as many pins as I'll ever
need.
I need. The spoons, though, are definitely ones that you would go out your way to recover. Possibly might try and put some sort of washi tape, maybe, if it's the talk about the UV room or the UV lighting, and maybe put some sort of UV responsive thing.
To see,
Who knows? It's nothing. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's definitely a case of it worked well. But it wasn't a case of I had instantaneous response to a grenade. It was a case of, right, I got to put this in, pull out the grenade, and that sort of thing. It was very much. I felt it was balanced overall. I didn't feel like it was, this is overkill. It felt like this is fair and balanced. But I didn't use the event the full game. Didn't use the shield the full game. I switched it up. You know, Boneheed, yourself. What did you think about that?
So, I mean, I think I was only against you for sort of the second half of the game, because I started on one team and switched.
Did we move you in team deathmatch round 2? We swapped.
Yeah. So I found that in that game and in one of the later games, we'd got someone using the on-site police riot shield that they have at Unit 26, and similar to as we found at Dishforth, the key to most, you know, taking out shield users is shoot where the shield isn't. Much more difficult in a close quarters area, because, as you say, David, you know, you were there, that was it. No one could get round you unless someone else was drawing your fire. It was shield, so
almost every tag I got against David in that round was when somebody was drawing his fire, and I was coming from the other side of the arena, on the side of the leg or belly or somewhere.
Yeah, and that's it. And I think with that sort of arena, it was much more difficult. Like in Dishforth, for example, you can just run away and
so many routes around in Dishforth as well.
And you'd kind of got that in Unit 26, but you've got to kind of work out, right, which circuitous path have I got to get around the back of him, or you know, is it even worth
And
doing
have
that?
you got
Because then
time?
he'll have turned around, etc. So, and I did find when we were using the police shield as well on that was the game with the box in the middle,
Yes,
where you had to
domination.
take
Yeah.
control. I did find there that the tags I got were just because someone else was shooting at them. So I found that pretty interesting. But in terms of the game type, the TDM game type, I love that because the first one I was against one team and then swapped halfway through. Yeah.
So you knew all their tactics, how they were going to move, and then you used it against them. Yep.
Yes. The downside is my Diana suffered an overheat and a battery power loss after that first TDM game. So the first game I was absolutely loving life because I'd got my nice little laser beam firing brushless blaster that was absolutely doing some work. At one point, I held Josh and a couple of his mates off in the dark room by myself, and it was only because I ran out of magazines that I had to kind of take a hit and go because they were just sort of three stooged into a doorway, and they just couldn't move because I just kept popping shots in their direction. So then the second game, I swapped over and I took my Protean out, which might as well be full auto, as we've said. And even though it's a double-handed blaster because it's quite compact, it's more SMG form factor.
It's definitely
I mean, I've got the stock on mine, so it is quite long. But again, you know, your stock's kind of into your body or into the crook of your arm. I found that worked really well. I think this is the first game I've played where I've played against Han, and I tagged Han more than he tagged me. So
it's a rarity in any game.
I'm not going to complain. I'll take it. I think it was more by luck than by changing of tactics or changing of skill or getting better at nerfing. But yeah, I managed to tag the number of times I got tagged. I got Han, and he was just like, "Oh, Brendan, you've got me." And you know, a rare occasion for anyone who's played against Han.
For context,
but yeah,
Han is a ninja.
Han is an absolute ninja. Han, you only know Han's there when he shot you in the backside. Similar to Ross, actually, but a bit quieter.
But Ross then goes, "Hiya."
Yeah, that's insult to injury. Yeah, as he runs away.
Yeah.
No, I think they definitely the play style of being silent definitely would have added in to your overall effectiveness. But you could also quite easily just get a few surprise shots against anybody. But at the same point in time, one of the things that I found that was quite, or for myself was quite common, was the errant shot to the head. Because I know that I shot Paul out of a reaction, and I caught him for about 2 feet away, square onto the head. And of course, wasn't meant, wasn't done maliciously, but it was certainly a case of you just see somebody's head appearing around the corner of something, and instinct takes over, and you fire, and no harm, no foul, sort of thing.
I say, Boneheed got me. He turned the corner, I think you were on the Protean, and put probably 3 rounds into me just as an instinct shot.
Yeah, I think
point blank. It's ooh.
Yes, I think I definitely overshot there, and I think actually I only overshot because you didn't call the hit first of all, or I didn't think you'd called the hit.
Too much pain.
Watching the footage back, I thought you'd not called the hit, but in actual fact, I had just gone pop, pop, pop because that thing fires so quickly.
Yeah,
and it was only then that I realised, oh yeah, maybe slow down. But that was actually, I did also get a neck shot from Jay, completely by accident. He said he was aiming, they said they were aiming to my chest, and it hit me in the neck, and I was kind of quite surprised by that. Yeah, it just goes to show that particular side of the arena that we were on, going back to what we were talking about before, that was a really long corridor. So I was shooting at Adam, and Jay was, a couple of meters behind.
He wasn't too far behind me, but just enough to be.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't hurt, but obviously hits to the fleshy areas often, are quite shocking, and they can sort of
startle you.
Startle you sometimes. So, my reaction probably wasn't the best there, but I mean, headshots happen, nut shots happen. It's one of those things. It's
Did anyone take a nut shot this time?
I don't think anyone did.
No, I took nipple shots from
because that was glorious.
It was
Yes.
it was
absolutely
amazing.
glorious. It was absolute instinct. I'll absolutely say that it was not planned. It was absolute instinct. I just saw you because reviewing the video and slowing it down, it's very clear that you've been having a firefight with somebody. You've stopped firing. You've turned round, and I just unload from about 3 feet away from you the shotgun Pico with all 10 darts at half darts.
It's
And-
it's not as bad as the shot Sarah did.
which I
where-
didn't get on camera, but it's the one thing that made me think,
where
I
it was
wish.
based, she was picking my nose with a Pico shot. It was that close. And I've got a
Sarah
daughter over
herself
there
thought-
looking at me going, what?
Sarah herself puts that down as one of the highlights for the event, where she managed
It
to
was
catch
probably
you.
one of my highlights as well, just 'cause the sheer shock of it.
Yeah,
I'm
surprised
crossing
there
into the
wasn't.
centre. Before I've even clocked that she's there, I hear this. It's one of those things. It's a pity we haven't got it on footage because
Yeah,
it's a you being framed moment.
just the look as you turn around and like there's this cloud of darts coming
That's-
towards you, following you by grabbing your nipples, going ah.
It wasn't even there. It was my face. And it was one went.
Yeah, and I think, I definitely think there was a lot of snap fire moments that definitely meant that if you were faster on the shot than the other person, you could definitely score the tag. But there would also be a lot of instant exchanges, we call them, just where we're basically deemed like you've fired close enough at the same time that you both said, take tag.
Yeah, I guess a lot of mutual exchanges.
Yeah, and that was good that there was no arguments over it. It was more just a case of, hey, we're cool, right, fine. And away you run
I think
back there.
There is one on camera. I'm not actually sure whether I've got hit or not, but enough darts came my way. I think it was with Paul. We ended up exchanging because I genuinely don't know if I'd got hit or not, but I'd rather give the benefit of the doubt and call it and respawn than sort of not take my hits. I did also get Adam with an absolutely cracker of a grenade. And I don't know if that was caught on film, whether you can hear what you say, but I know Adam's there, and I'm just sort of, he knows I'm there, and I'm just like, right, I can't get out and shoot him without him getting me. So, grenade, twisted, threw it round the corner. That probably all happened in a split second, but in my head, it was about 5 minutes, and I just hear my grenade go off and go bang, and Adam's like, you, and I was just about to do that.
I literally had one in my hand primed. I knew he was round the corner, and it was like, oh,
Because he'd done that
and
to me.
it was a double take looking at it on the floor just to make sure that what I had heard was what I heard.
And you'd done that to me as well, because there's a bit on the far side, opposite the safe room doors, where I'm coming around with the shield. You duck back in, and as I go to grab it, I grab a grenade. Oh, here's dink. Hello. And that's the brilliant thing. Did you come out of there with your ears ringing? Because I'm pretty sure I was. Right.
Yeah.
Not as bad as I was expecting, but obviously we didn't use firing grenades this time. I did take my earplugs, but I forgot to put them in. So there was us three using fulcrums. There was a couple of people using air tags or fibs. And I took all 12 of my fulcrum, and I only carried 6. So I lent out 6 that some of the hull guys were using. So there was quite a lot of bangs going off. And I used, I think, 5 in every round. I basically set the event as a free-for-all on grenades because we never get a chance to do that. Mainly because Han gets hit by too many grenades.
I think Han's still got PTSD after that event in the CQP at Dishforth.
I think, yes.
Well, it's probably more PTSD.
Oh, but they were good. On the subject of the fulcrums, I found that the difference between the softer grass at Dishforth and the grass, the moss, etc., and the harder floors and whole environment, I found I had a whole lot less failure rate.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking that myself. I don't think I had a single grenade fail to go off. I mean, I did put live caps in them all this time, which helped. But I think the combination of it was a hard floor and all the walls were like plywood, so the walls were relatively hard. It's a much more open space at Dishforth, so you've got to rely on generally the ground strike setting off the grenade. Whereas
fulcrums are fairly reliable even on grass.
Yeah,
sure,
they do work on grass.
I absolutely say that. Yeah, I mean, in terms of even TBR himself will say that they're a lot easier to get to go off because of the nature of the design of them. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying anything negative against them. It's just the very nature of, like, you throw them, and if they're going to land in grass, the likelihood of them going off is significantly reduced.
Yeah.
Whereas
but in there, every one I threw went off.
Yeah. Again, you got so many more hard surfaces and so many options. It wasn't just hard surfaces and three sort of sides. It was not only there, you got either it hit a wall and bounce, or it might hit the floor and bounce, and there's much more likelihood of it hitting a hard surface than somewhere open.
What I will say is, for a couple of times in the centre where I threw one, I thought, oh my God, mine's going to smash, because of it. When it landed, it sounded hard.
Yeah.
And I haven't got a scratch on any of mine, so I'll give the guy credit.
Yeah.
His prints are well worth it.
Yeah, I think one of mine's taken damage. It's the first one I bought, which was the pin and spoon one. But I think that's more from constantly pulling the pin out and putting the pin back in and pulling the pin out. And it's just like where the pin goes in, it's chipped off. But other than that, they've held up. They're good quality. The print quality on them is fantastic, and they do hold up to the impact that you throw them with. I do think with the meteor grenades that we were using, it was interesting using them in an indoor atmosphere for the first time, because even at Dishforth, if you're indoors, you're outdoors. It's an open fronted building, and you never get that it's indoors
full effect of it.
Yeah, and it was quite echoey in there as well, just sort of based on the layout of the building and what it was made of. When one of those went off, you could hear it everywhere. You knew there was a grenade had gone off.
So usually followed by somebody swearing.
Yeah,
more often than not me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did find that the terrain and the cover that was present did make it very easy for you to bobble a throw by having it hit something and bounce off in a direction that you didn't necessarily want it to go. And therefore you could well end up missing your original target and having still get them, or hit one of your own teammates.
I didn't have that, but I'm guessing there's a story here.
No, I can't remember. Genuinely, the entire event for me is a blur. Okay, I have got snippets of memory from bits and pieces that you both know I've got a memory recall issue, and that's why I kind of heavily rely on the video. But I'm sure it's where I'm going to throw one against you. I see you coming around the corner, you duck back in, I go to throw it, so of course it's either my off arm, because I've dropped a shield, or it's my arm and I'm throwing it over the shield, and sort of like instead of like that, it's more like a crossbody throw, and I basically just release it at the wrong angle. It dinks off something and doesn't land anywhere near you. And I'm like, okay, fine. Oh well, old-fashioned way, in with the blaster. Or by the time that it's a case of, right, it's Dave. He's got the grenades, and people don't even hang around anywhere near it. They just get out of town as soon as they see me. So therefore, I'm throwing a grenade and it's going off uselessly, which still in itself is great because it's area denial. It's causing them to backtrack, and that it's still got a value. But no, I can't even remember. At least I don't think it's on thing, but I'm sure it's one of these things that has happened, because I know that I'm not a pitcher for the the Major League Baseball. I can my preferred throwing is that, but I also have got a habit of yeeting things at people, which has got me told off
must
more
say-
than one occasion when I've yeeted it at somebody's head by accident there.
I'm not a good thrower, and I think I only had one bad throw, and that was against Boneheed when you were running the Protean and you were on the opposite side of the middle. I aimed at you, it went to the left, but I think I still got somebody because we were coming down the corridor next to us. Win.
Yeah, that's it. There's literal video evidence of me not being very good at throwing, and from I think it was the latest N7.
Kill Factory X, yeah.
Planetfall. And I went to underarm throw a grenade, and I threw it directly up in the air. Just let go far too late.
No, I've got that one because I'm walking towards you with the camera out, taking shots, and you just launch it into the sky, and it's like it goes about 3 feet in front of you and lands at my feet, and I'm thinking,
I always do that. It
doesn't go off as well.
I do that with the blank firing one because it's heavier. I can't get the right throw. I almost always hit something metal and bounce it back towards myself.
But I mean, the blank firing grenades, I think it's like 500 grams compared to the fulcrum, which is about 50 approximately, depending on what design you go for. And filaments, it just is lighter by definition. So you're talking something that's 10 times the weight of it. If you're not used to throwing it, it's going to go an odd one there. But I did pass on my, because I was quite happy with the grenades, I passed on all my FIB grenades to Paul and Jamie. So I believe they were going to. No, I done it at the end of the event. I should have done it at the start, but like again, we came in late.
You were flustered, yeah.
We were a bit flustered. I was trying to get the camera on there, which actually is another wee talking point about the flickering of the lights there. So no, I came in, I was flustered. It was a case of right, get the gear done, get everything on, get the camera in, get in. And I really sort of was playing catch up for about the first couple of rounds. It was only until I think we got to domination I was sort of like, right, breathe, But I mean, like we brought in bottled beverages, and they were disappearing every round. I was I was necking like half a liter bottle every round. Just to sort of stay on top of the thirst. I mean, they had a big fan going in the safe zone to keep it nice and cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was a warm ass day,
Yeah.
So
makes a change.
Yes, it does. What did we think about the domination round? Because this was the first time, and I'm sure Adam will send me a lovely, nice picture of the box and the speakers so that we can include it just now. But I think the domination box was the star of the show, personally, because it was just such a game-changing piece of equipment.
Yeah,
but not cheap.
It wasn't cheap, and it has a lot of problems. It's hit and miss if it even turns on. It's hit and miss if the speakers connect. It's hit and miss if the keypad even works when you do turn it on. The 5 key doesn't work, the 0 key doesn't work, and you can't set it below 4 seconds. So you have to now hold it for 4 seconds to take control. And I wanted it like 1 second. So that's the downside. The flip side is it is an incredible piece of kit, because we've tried domination before with the cube, and my cube has seen a lot of events. Most of them it's never been used, and it has been kicked and bashed and dropped, and the batteries replaced multiple times, and one screen just doesn't work, one screen half of it works, and I never know how to turn it on or how to configure it. So it's kind of a dark magic whether that box ever worked. So the new one, you turn it on, you click domination, you click 11 because we can't do 10. You click go, it goes blip, blip, communicates, you go start, and then it goes tick, 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 tick. So yeah, I think that is a game changer, like you say. I think position-wise, I don't know whether it was in the right place. There was quite a lot of cover around it, which meant once you'd lost control and somebody had taken it, it was hard to get it back, especially when we said no grenades. I think next time what we've said is 4 grenades per person per round, and we will allow them in that centre because that's going to make that centre a lot heavier for. Especially
introduce some analysis paralysis as well with, do I throw my grenade now or do I save it for later? Well, yeah.
It's like, well, I can probably take a pot shot and get them, or do I waste that grenade and know I'm going to get them? And we will have analysis paralysis. It's why we don't go with 1 grenade, because you'll never use it, and 2 is always a good number. There's some things I want to try. I don't think I actually had it set to 4 seconds. I've got a bad feeling it might have been set at 7 seconds, which is why people were struggling to take control. Because I had been playing around like a month ago, and I can't remember what I set the times to. There's also the possibility that we might be able to backwards engineer it by reading the traces and be able to flash it properly and be able to put in 1 second. But yeah, it's great. It's very tactile because you've got that big button to press to change it. And I love the fact that it then announces on the speaker. So it's, if you've got control, your speaker says the other team is trying to capture this point, whereas the other speaker is going, we're trying to capture the point. So what I was finding was most of the times it was being captured, I was respawning. I never saw it happening. All I did was I heard it happening.
I know that during the domination round, it was it Andrew and myself? I was using my shield. Andrew was using the in-house shield, and we were just. I think I raised this conversation point with you, which is we're sitting there with the 2 shields on front of it. It's a case of,
I should have really given them a shield, but
yeah,
we'd learn.
But again, that's the thing. It didn't feel as if, because I had to, because I was holding the shield up, my shield that was my hand that was actually doing the things was that, so I couldn't fire anything. So I'm sitting looking around, okay, trying to figure out where everything's coming from. Okay, I can't hear properly, so I can't necessarily hear the whole. So I'm having to look at the screen. So we've been looking at the screen, looking at the fire, trying to see where everything's coming from. Okay, making sure nobody's trying to sneak up. Okay, I'm sitting there leaving the button on. I'm thinking, have I got the thing? Wait. Okay, no, okay, that's fine. Okay, take it off, right? Put it back on again. Okay, at which point in time somebody's tagged me. I didn't feel as if having the shield was overkill.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm pretty sure for the water part of the event, I just dropped the shield and just started running around pistol and grenade, and being a little bit more fleet of foot, and certainly moving faster, because I didn't feel as if I was necessarily going to start knocking over terrain if I ran into it, But I think, yeah, having the ability to use grenades, because you're limiting the grenades. If now, don't get me wrong, if you've got 10 people on a side, that's 40 grenades, okay? Nobody's capturing that, okay? Because it's a case of you just have somebody standing there going and throwing a grenade over. But not everybody's carrying 4 grenades, if they're carrying grenades at all, okay? So I still think having the 4 grenades is still a very useful thing. Or even if you wanted to limit it to 2 grenades for that round,
yeah.
okay? But maybe say to people, you can hand your grenades over to somebody else if you wanted to, because somebody might not necessarily want to hang around in the middle area waiting for the other people to come forward. Okay, I just feel that including the grenades would make it a bit fairer.
Yeah.
But I don't think the shields necessarily done a lot, because it was as much of a hindrance as it was actually a benefit.
Yeah, which goes back to what you were saying earlier. From movement point of view, it's as much of a hindrance as it was. So yeah.
I think shields they're a bit of a double-edged sword, aren't they? They've got their advantages, but they've also got massive disadvantages.
As it should, as a gameplay device, it should be balanced.
Yeah, I think, and we've mentioned this on numerous episodes now where we've been talking about shields. I think if it was a point that shields were massively OP, I think we would probably need to maybe limit their use, but we've not had an instance of that so far that I have experienced. There's either a way to get rid of the shield or a way to get rid of the person behind the shield in pretty much every scenario.
And as if shields were OP, I would be immensely reluctant to use them because I wouldn't want to
ruin it for
other people.
Yeah.
I feel that because for me particularly, I mean, don't get me wrong, if you were to hand that same size shield to TBR, right, and say, right, it
might slow him down.
Yeah, okay, so the answer is cool. It might take him down to reasonably fast human levels. Okay, there's a clip of him chasing after Daz, and during the final in a Kill Factory. And the speed that Ross goes at was ridiculous. It's like that's broken. That is,
Include the clip,
and Ewan's almost as bad.
Yeah,
I mean,
fast.
Ewan is nippy, but the speed Ross runs. David actually said this. I thought that the footage had been sped up. He's running that quickly. He goes from one end of the big six to the other end of the big six in a matter of seconds. It's just. I was amazed at it. I was like, how are we the same species? Like, seriously.
like clearly he's doping. He's doping. Blood test. So I think, I mean, I do feel, to reiterate the point, I don't think shields are OP. I think that particular shield comes with a whole bunch of setbacks that work well for me as somebody who's quite happy to plod along when necessary. But I also know that when I did put it down in a few rounds and I had the freedom to move a bit faster, I definitely did feel myself being a lot more nippy and room cleary as a shot around. But I think domination worked fantastically. I think my only thing for me would be to say, can we get the noise a little bit louder so that it's...
Unfortunately, no. That is the downside. No, we can't. Not without probably rewiring it, but maybe. I'm not saying definitely no.
Yeah,
it's almost like we know somebody who's an electrical engineer by training.
Yes, it's always handy when your hobby is filled with a bunch of adults who've all got skills and trades. So it's a case of I can do that, or somebody else can work out a solution for something. I think it's really handy to not have to rely on produced components by big companies and trying to find out if we can make it work. It's a case of no, we'll figure out how to make it work. That's great. So what was after that? No, actually, no. Before that, was there anything else about domination?
Just that I thought it was going to be a whitewash, and it was a lot closer. Because because our team went in with those two shields and got it straight away and held it for a good probably 2-3 minutes before anyone came close. I thought we would whitewash them, and I don't know where it flipped and how the other team got so much thing, but basically they had Ethan, who now Ethan's been playing with us for pretty much since the end of the pandemic. So I've seen him grow up from like this 10, 11-year-old into this polite and massive teenager. Last time I saw him, he was like here, now he's up here. But even then, he's still he can fold himself into like the tiniest spot. So there was a gap between. We had it on one of the boxes, and there was a gap between them and the next tower, and he must have basically folded himself in half, and only his hand was on the box, and he was just no one could get to him. So he just kept somehow managing it, and
what
a number of times I wanted a grenade.
Yeah, I think one of the things that helped on that round as well, your team spawned from the more open side, which we I think it's easy to get to no man's land from, which we've discussed.
Yeah.
But by that point, our team had kind of learned all the angles on no man's land from there, from our side. So we kind of got a bit more
I think
knowledge of the arena, and
you probably played a better game.
Yeah.
But we had the advantage of getting there first.
Yeah, and
but
got the two shields.
It was 25 seconds, which is a lot closer than I expected.
And that's good.
Yep.
You know, because there's a case of because one of the other things was that the sort of kicked up, and I think I'm sure I mentioned to you this time was we've got 2 shields. Aye, but they've all got ultra ammo.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost like there was an ultra bro on that team. 2 of them.
There were 3 ultra bros there, but yeah,
2 official ultra bros.
Yeah,
we probably do need to invite some of them into the knighthood of the brohood.
Well, we had actually got 3 ultra bros there because there was you, myself, and DPA.
Yeah, but I wasn't on that team.
Oh right, okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was all 4 of us here. I think the only person that was missing was
Emissary. Frodo.
Yeah, Frodo. Yeah. And and Samwise to an extent, you know. But it's what am I saying? I'm not part of this. I'm not part of this. I refuse to be a member of this.
And I'm not representing today because I'm.
I don't know where mine is.
Broken David.
Once you just we had this conversation during setup. You couldn't resist, could you? You just complete dickhead, you know. Right, okay. So after that, what the hell?
Last game was the 3x3 single shot round. So on my team it was, I think, Jamie, Han, and myself. Obviously, Han's the ninja, and in that arena on a 3x3, he's in his element. He was running a modified pilot, shooting, I presume, short darts with so much accuracy that between him and me, it was just a whitewash.
I know that Jamie and Paul, because that was their first time down there. Jamie is small and whisper quiet. Okay. He is very much going to be the next in the line of ninjas, because he could quite happily disappear behind cover, you know, and he could, if he wanted to, you could probably move without being seen across the arena, like Metal Gear Solid.
And he's quite ruthless as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If there's a chance
he's got Paul as a dad,
he'll take it.
Paul definitely believes in the whole "did you die? No, right then" attitude to learning to stuff. Okay, but yeah, I mean, Jamie at Foam Dark Thunder events, he doesn't really sort of go all in to sort of win, but he's definitely getting an opportunity to play with the sort of adults and recognizing, oh right, yeah, okay, it's up the game a little bit there, okay. And he's definitely going to, he's finding the aspect of the hobby that we all want people to find, which is the bigger games for with more complicated tactics, and
he's in that difficult stage where he's kind of outgrown those early games, the FTTs, the Grim Nerfs, and he wants those more adult games that we have a dish for, and it's finding that middle ground where we don't have as a community many of those.
Yeah, there's a couple of kids in that bracket as well. You know, players that will, you know, if they stick with it, they will be up there with us and probably running rings around us in a couple of years' time. But
they already are running rings around us because we're old.
Yeah, but I mean, they'll be running rings around us as adults. You know, and there's a few kids that I've played, you know, that people brought their kids along, and I'm like, yeah, I'd play against him again. He's going to make a really good nerfer when he grows up, or she, or you know, and yeah, I think Jamie's definitely in that bracket. I didn't hear a word from him for the entire event. I got tagged by him quite a lot. But yeah,
swore at him quite a few times for tagging me.
yeah. But no, you'd just turn a corner and he'd be there and he'd already tagged you. He was like a mini Han.
It is. Jamie is immensely polite and immensely whisper spoken. Okay, like, even when I'm talking to him like outside, it's a case of you're going to hate to speak up for us audience, mate. You know, but he's definitely he does. And I remember what was it the FTD Pro ones when we started doing the Pro series up in Scotland. He didn't come to the first one, and when he got home, he genuinely said to Paul, "Stand there with that griffin and shoot me." Right, like point blank range, and got shot by one. Right, did I cry? No. So can I come to the next one then? All right then.
In fairness, for the few players I've done that with, who now play at our events. So.
Yeah, he's definitely finding the hobby, the joy of the adult version or the mature version of the hobby, and I'm very pleased for that. Now we just need to get along to more events. So we're sort of like, I think we've more or less discussed the event itself.
Games, yep.
One of the things though was a couple of talking points, which was, in fact, you know what? I'll just hand it straight over to you, Adam, because this is where you had a couple of talking points that you wanted to bring up there, and we wanted to quite happily sit and discuss. So on you go, mate.
Yep. On my notes, I've got gear, but we've kind of gone over that as we've gone. The only thing I'm going to really talk about is I ran the BK2S first run out, which is an amazing blaster when it works.
Yeah.
I had some games where it was every 3 shots it was jamming, and some it was catastrophic jam. That blaster was out of action for that game. But when it didn't have those, it was every shot was a tag. It was one point where I fired 13 shots and I got 11 tags. And it just feels amazing because it's AEB, it's got the recoil from the spring, it feels nice, it's compact, it's accurate. So I've got the Zerko BCAR on, and I was shooting laser beams. Like I say, when it works, it is by far the best blaster I have ever used. I would put it up there with a Diana in terms of accuracy and performance. But it doesn't work most of the time. It's frustrating because it is so good, and then it fails and it jams, or something doesn't quite feed right, and you have to drop the mag and clear it out, put it back in, rack the bolt. And that in itself is really nice, so you've got to rack the bolt. But it's just frustrating when it happens so frequently. But I think I might have fixed an issue. I think my gearbox was misaligned slightly, so I'm hoping next time it's going to work better. Then I was running the Unicorn in my CQB setup, so the stock spring, stock internals, Zerko barrel collet with a slightly longer barrel and a Huntsman BCAR. And I was finding I was shooting to the right slightly, but even then, adjust for it, and again, nearly every shot was a hit. So they were about the only 2 things I used. I pulled my Nightingale side down once and shot 1 round, got a tag. And I tried running the Ultra 2 and couldn't holster it. Which is annoying because I love the Ultra 2. It's such a hand cannon, and I've got a body kit which makes it even prettier and hand cannon-ier. But yeah, it's an Ultra. I love Ultra. So I was very minimal gear this time. I ran 4 mags at most, and that is just enough, I found, in that venue for the way I was playing for an 11-minute round. There was most games I was down to 1 or 2 darts left, so it was very close, but it was just right for me. Then don't know what other people felt that gear. Proteon, I came up against that several times. It was one of those ones where some of the times it felt like it was amazing to come up against. Like it was laser beams one time, but then other times it felt like it was a bit off. So I don't know whether that's...
Yeah. So I think what that was, I mean, in terms of my gear for the first half of the event, I was pretty much maining a Diana, which is probably what led to it overheating and running out of battery. But it was a love story that had just started at that event and will continue on for quite a long time. I love that blaster. It's probably one of my best purchases. Like Adam's BK, it was shooting absolute laser beams, and I love the fact that if you needed to, like, go into full-on Cyril Figgis mode, you could just flip the switch straight into full auto and, you know, suppressing fire, which is, again, how I ended up holding one particular doorway against 3 of the enemy team with it. The problem that led to, though, was when I then switched to a 2-stage blaster, I wasn't revving sometimes. So when the shots weren't going right, I'd not actually remembered you need to rev before you pull the trigger, dickhead. So some of them were going absolute laser beams and direct at the target. Some of them were just not getting the full power from the flywheels.
I find that whenever I go back to the Nightingale and then go away from it,
yeah.
I forget that I have to rev.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's where that came from. I mean, in terms of the Protean, it's the second game I've used it at, the first being Planetfall. I had the B-carb barrel in it. It hits pretty much bang on 140, but again, shoots lasers. It's small and compact. The trigger is the nicest trigger I have ever pulled in any.
Amazing.
It's just such a snappy little geared trigger. It's like a Griffin.
It is almost full auto because it is just so responsive. Because I've had this, there was the dish where I accidentally accused Stuart of full autoing in the CQB arena because he was using a Protean and it was just tap, tap, tap. It was so quick.
Yeah. And you know, I've posted a video on Facebook that I'm sure people have seen where I'm sort of saying this is my Protean. It isn't semi-auto. It isn't full auto. Look, one fire, it only fires once, but you can do that. And yeah, mag dump it. It just the trigger. It's just such a nice trigger. So smooth, so responsive, so snappy. And the only thing I don't like is obviously that you've got 2-stage, but that's the same with any, you know, most 3D printed blasters, your Griffins, your things like Meowsers and stuff like that. You know, you've got to actually not Meowser because that's, I don't know what I'm talking about. That's Flycore. But you know, anything that's got a rev trigger. So most of the stock Nerf blasters and stuff like that, that's the inherent problem. When you've been using something where you don't need to rev, it really causes problems. I did also at one point use my slab.
Did you take the Phoenix as well this time?
I didn't. So I was going to bring my Phoenix to the event. The issue for me with the Phoenix, as much as I love the Phoenix, is we had a 1 joule limit, and Adam is always of the opinion that slightly over 1 joule is not too bad. I chronoed my Phoenix and it was coming at 175, so that's considerably above 1 joule. And you know, even if Adam had said, "I just don't tell anyone, it'll be fine," which I'm sure he wouldn't have done, I would not,
at that point.
No, I would not feel like I was being a responsible nerfer if I was using a 170 blaster in a CQB environment. It's just too hot. So I didn't bring the Phoenix. I did bring my slab, and I love my slab. But I always seem to have an issue with it. This time the issue was me. I'd not pushed the barrel all the way in, so I wasn't getting a proper barrel seal. And when I was loading, it wasn't pushing the dart all the way in because it obviously wasn't going. It was getting to that little sort of gap between the barrel and the O-ring and just gripping. So it wasn't. It was occasionally firing, but it just wasn't feeding properly.
And as you said, it was a bit too long for that.
Yeah, it was also do that.
Yeah, so I was originally going to bring my slab, but didn't for that very reasoning, that it is quite a long blaster. Frodo's Marleg version would probably be fine.
Yeah.
I did have a blast failure in that I took the amp, which would have been very useful against somebody's shield, and it just utterly refused to work with any of the batteries I took. Mine's still stock, so it's still on AA's, and I used an MH, and it refused any of them. And I charged them about 3 days before, so don't know what happened. Came home, recharged, and worked fine. So
yeah, we had a few. I think DPA, he brought about 4 or 5 different Ultra Blasters, and pretty much every single one of them had failed by the end of the day. Whether it be running out of batteries, whether it be jamming, whether it just not feeding darts. So he had problems. Ironically, I took my amp, which is also stock, running on NIMHs, but I didn't use it because I was having too much fun with other things. So yeah, but I was running a slightly lighter loadout than normally. I did have my chest rig with me, but I think for the later games I dumped it and just used a belt with some Talon mag holders on it. My usual dump pouch for my grenades attached to the front, and that works for me. One thing I did find though is because I'd got the Diana holster on one hip, I'd swapped where my dump pouch was, and that threw my grenade muscle memory off. So yeah.
That's why you always stick to one layout. Yeah. And you learn it.
It's
dump pouch, holster, mags.
Yeah.
It's certainly something for me that I've sort of found that I've got mine's the way that I do things. It's the H harness with the battle belt, and on both sides I've got 2x3, so I've got 12 mags, and basically I've got dump pouch, and I think there's basically on the backs are like the 2 generalized pockets for basically holding gas or bottles or whatever else it is, and that's I just stick with that. And I'd take that to anything. I'd take that to, although I don't like HVZ, I'd still run that same setup at a HVZ. I'd run that same setup at a full day long event. It's just, it works for me, you know.
This is something I've said a lot to people is once you find something that works for you, stick with it, learn its quirks inside and out, and you'll, once you learn that setup for your gear, your level of play just steps up because you know where everything is and where to get it, and it just works for you.
I think I'm still kind of, because I'm taking different loadouts every game. I'm still the new guy. I realize I've been doing this 2 years now, but I'm still the new guy. I've not found that one setup that works for every single loadout I take. And it might be that there isn't one setup for every loadout. It might be that I just need to change depending on what I've got with me. But yeah, it's getting that sweet spot and working out that works for me when I've got X or Y blaster with me.
Well, to be fair, on the subject of it, I'm probably going to have to change my loadout slightly because I've now got the mag holster to fit onto mines, and I can just tell from it's going to sit at the same. It's going to sit so the handle's going to be forced into the dump pouch area.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to have to do a little bit of tweaking to it, but that's fine if I just have to put things around a couple of notches.
It's when you move something radically from one side to the other that it throws you, and then you have to relearn.
Yeah, and that's what happened with me. I normally have my dump pouch on my left hip, but because I'd got my Diana mags there to sort of load, speed load, sort of John Wick style. In my head, John Wick, and in reality, probably someone more comedic. Mr. Bean, there we go. I found I couldn't keep my dump pouch there, so I swapped it to the other hip. And it just really threw me because normally I'd reach down for a grenade in my left hand, twist, and then throw. But my grenades were over there. So I was sort of, oh, no, I've got to reach my grenade. When I, in reality, what I should have done, blaster in other hand, grenade. But yeah, I am not a smart man.
one thing I was quite pleased with was I had invested in the bumpers from UK Nerf War for the Nightingale mags, and I was, when I wasn't running the shield, I typically would find that I wouldn't actually have a grenade in my hand. I'd have an extra magazine, and I'd be running around 2 hands for the aiming, but one of them holding the magazine for the express purpose of just being able to drop it, slide it in, and do it. And I found that worked really, really well for me, because it meant that if I'm going to use my 15 shots for whatever else it is, I'm 3 seconds away from having another fresh set. And because I can then just continue to do that when necessary, I didn't mind it. And the bump, and I know you can't necessarily get bumpers for all the magazines, but I know that as somebody that basically that runs a Nightingale as a main, it works really well for me. And it was like a £1 a magazine investment, and absolutely worth it.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
I was just going to say I've had issues with the 3D printed bumpers. for mags.
But the Nightingale ones David had don't increase your capacity, do they? They just protect the bottom.
They don't. They don't
Yeah.
alter the capacity there.
Whereas
yeah.
mine do. But they give it nicer, something to grip on the bottom, protect it, and stop that cap flying off.
Mhm.
But it's interesting because going back to when I started, there was a huge thing from BOF and Foam Data Services of running with a mag in your offhand. So you were always ready to reload. So you'd have your mags on your chest or your belt, and it would be like you'd drop your empty, put it into your off pocket, draw it, but you'd draw it into your offhand. So you'd already reload from your offhand, you'd draw it into fire, so you're always ready to fire. And it's interesting to see that David's now going back to that style of tactics, which it's great because it's like full circle. It's 10 years of Nerf knowledge coming back.
If it works, it works. You know.
Yep. Are we okay with gear? Should we go on to the hot topic?
I'm perfectly fine with gear. I'm perfectly fine. Brendan, anything else?
Yeah, no, yeah, let's go for it.